Success doesn't shout, it whispers through the quiet choices made behind closed doors. If you want to rise, don't just study what winners do. Pay close attention to what they refuse to do. There comes a time in every person's life when the bright lights begin to beckon. The clamor of applause calls your name. The temptation to be seen, to be recognized, to be celebrated grows louder than the quiet truth inside you. But successful people, truly successful ones, have learned that not every light illuminates. Some lights burn, some spotlights cost too much, and the price they demand is your integrity. They never trade integrity for attention because they understand that attention is temporary, but character echoes. You see, it is easy to bend your truth for applause. It is easy to shape your voice to suit the room, to change your colors like a chameleon just to be accepted, to dance for cheers and betray your soul for likes. But what does it profit a soul to gain 1,000,000 eyes if it loses itself in the process? What kind of success is built on pretending? Those who walk in greatness know this. Attention is a drug. It can intoxicate you. It can lift you high, but it will not hold you steady. It will not ground you when the wind shifts. Because the same crowd that claps for you today might boo you tomorrow. The same people that build you up will sometimes tear you down if you don't give them what they want. That's why the wise do not build their identity on the validation of others. They don't perform for praise. They don't decorate themselves with lies to win favor. They stand on truth even when it is quiet, even when it is not glamorous, even when the world turns its face away from honesty and runs to the glitter of deception. They remember that their word is their bond, that their principles are their protection, that their soul is more precious than any headline, any platform, any superficial popularity. They don't trade their values for virality. They don't compromise their essence for exposure, because they know real power doesn't come from being liked by many. It comes from being loved by your own conscience. They sleep peacefully at night, not because the world adores them, but because they have not betrayed their own heart. Integrity is not loud. It is not flashy. It will not always be rewarded in the moment, but it holds. It keeps you rooted when everything else is swaying. And there is something deeply dignified about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. There is something unshakable about a person who walks in alignment with what they say, what they do, and who they are. Those who never trade integrity for attention understand the cost of faking. They know that every time you choose the performance over the principle, you chip away at your inner strength. And eventually, the version of yourself you've sold to the world will feel like a stranger you have to keep pretending to be. So they speak with care. They act with purpose. They lead with truth, even when it is unpopular, even when it gets them less, because they are not chasing noise. They are building legacy. And legacies are not built on empty applause. They are built on consistent truth, on honest choices, on the refusal to be someone else just to be seen. They rise slowly, but they rise deeply. They may not go viral, but they grow roots. They may not be celebrated loudly, but they are respected quietly, lastingly, because attention fades. But integrity, real, unwavering, honest integrity, becomes a foundation you can stand on when the world begins to shake. They have learned that peace is more valuable than popularity, that purpose speaks louder than praise, that the soul was never meant to be traded for a moment of applause. There is a quiet kind of courage in walking away from a place that no longer honors your presence. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in deep and sacred self-respect. People who rise, who live full and free, have learned one lesson with blood and tears. You do not beg to be seen. You do not shrink to be accepted. And you never, ever stay where you are not respected. Respect is not a luxury, it is a requirement. It is not something you should have to earn by overgiving, overproving, or overextending yourself. It is the bare minimum of any space that claims to hold you, and those who know their worth do not settle for scraps of acknowledgement. They do not mistake tolerance for love or silence for peace. They recognize the subtle slights, the covert disregard, the invisible ceilings placed above them. And when they feel their value being questioned, they do not raise their voice, they raise their standard. To stay in a place where your light is dimmed, where your voice is dismissed, where your gifts are used but your soul is not seen, is a betrayal of yourself. The wise know this. They've sat in those rooms where their presence was convenient but never cherished, where they were expected to contribute but not to shine, where their absence would be felt only when their labor stopped, not their laughter, not their wisdom, not their heart. And they chose, not with loud rebellion, but with quiet dignity, to leave. There is power in walking away from tables where respect is not served. Because when you stay where you are not respected, you begin to question your own reflection. You begin to internalize the disregard. You begin to whisper to yourself what they've been too cowardly to say out loud, that you are too much, or not enough, or replaceable. But the truth is, your worth is not up for negotiation. Your value is not determined by those who fail to see it. You were whole before they mishandled you, and you will be whole after you leave them behind. Those who truly understand success do not cling to places that wound them. They do not spend their energy explaining their existence, proving their power, or apologizing for taking up space. They know when a room is too small for their spirit. They know when a job, a relationship, a friendship, or even a family dynamic has become a place of erosion instead of elevation. And they move on, not because they are ungrateful, but because they are no longer willing to shrink. Leaving doesn't always mean packing bags and burning bridges. Sometimes it means emotionally detaching, mentally distancing, spiritually protecting what's sacred within you. It means refusing to beg for what should be given freely: decency, acknowledgement, reciprocity. It means choosing silence over humiliation, peace over proximity, solitude over tolerated presence. You see, successful people protect their inner garden. They do not allow disrespect to take root and grow like weeds around their confidence. They prune environments that no longer feed their truth. They walk away not to punish others, but to preserve themselves, because they know that staying too long in the wrong space can delay the arrival of the right one. That settling for less teaches your spirit to forget how much more is possible. That enduring mistreatment becomes a habit that eventually silences your intuition, your joy, your voice. So they listen, not to the noise, but to the still, small voice that says, "You deserve better than this." They follow that voice, even when their knees shake, even when the road ahead is uncertain. And in doing so, they reclaim their power, not with vengeance, but with self-respect, not by proving others wrong, but by honoring what has always been right within them. There is a sacred wisdom in knowing what belongs to you and what never did. There is power, real, seasoned, fire-tested power, in learning to place your energy only where it can grow something meaningful. Those who walk in the fullness of their calling do not scatter their spirit like leaves in the wind. They do not try to control the clouds, the tides, or the opinions of small minds. They've come to understand that there is a divine difference between influence and control, and the attempt to master what cannot be mastered will only empty you of joy and peace and purpose. The wise do not fight every battle that knocks at their door. They do not engage every insult, defend every rumor, or correct every misconception. They do not run after things that refuse to be still, because they have seen what it costs. the exhaustion, the anxiety, the silent suffering of chasing what is not theirs to fix. They know the price of trying to bend reality to their will, and they've chosen another way, a gentler way, a stronger way. You see, when you waste your energy on things outside your control, you become a slave to chaos. You become reactive instead of rooted. You live your life on edge, hoping others behave the way you wish, hoping life obeys your schedule, hoping fate falls in line with your desires. And hope is beautiful, but misdirected hope can become a burden. Hope must be anchored in truth. And the truth is, you cannot control what other people say, what other people do, or how life unfolds beyond the reach of your hands. But you can control your response. You can choose your focus. You can guard your energy like something sacred, because it is. Your energy is not limitless. It is not disposable. It is not meant to be thrown at every circumstance that threatens your peace. And successful people know your energy is your currency. Waste it on the unworthy, and you will go bankrupt in your soul. There will always be something trying to pull you off course. A delayed phone call, a backhanded comment, a situation you wish you could redo, but you cannot gather spilled water. You cannot unring a bell, and trying to do so will only distract you from the work that still remains, the growth that still calls, the beauty that still waits to be lived. Those who rise learn to ask a holy question: is this mine to carry? And if the answer is no, they lay it down. They lay it down without guilt, without explanation, without looking back. They understand that surrender is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is clarity. It is the art of conservation, the practice of keeping your fire lit for the things that matter. They do not try to manage how they are perceived. They know that perception is a mirror full of fog. They do not fight the flow of life, but they do swim strong in their own lane. They spend their energy on becoming, not convincing, on building, not battling, on healing, not hustling to control outcomes they were never meant to hold in the first place. They have made peace with the unpredictable, and that peace becomes their power. When the winds blow, they bend, but do not break. When plans fall apart, they trust that something better may rise from the dust. When people change, they do not beg. They bless and release, because they've learned if peace costs your energy, it's not peace. If control steals your joy, it's not power. If chasing leaves you breathless and broken, it's not your path. So they focus, not on the storms, but on their stillness. Not on the chaos, but on the calling that never left. Not on the noise of what they cannot fix, but on the quiet fire of what they can create. They do not waste energy on the wind. They become the roots that hold when the wind comes. There is a rare kind of wisdom that lives not in the thunder of our words, but in the stillness of our restraint. Those who walk tall through the storms of life have learned that silence is not weakness, nor is it absence. Silence is presence. Silence is power held back, not because it is absent, but because it is sovereign. You see, successful people, those with depth, those with substance, do not rush to fill every quiet space. They are not afraid of the pause. They are not threatened by stillness. They understand that the loudest voice in the room is not always the most powerful one. Sometimes it is the one who listens, who observes, who discerns and responds, not out of emotion, but out of intention. To speak just to be heard is the habit of the insecure, but to withhold speech when silence will say more, that is the choice of the wise. That is the choice of those who understand that not everything deserves a response. Not every insult requires a reply. Not every battle is worthy of your breath. For what does it serve you to argue with ignorance or to explain yourself to those already committed to misunderstanding you? There are moments in life when words are cheap and silence is priceless. When you feel the pressure to react, to defend, to prove, but something deep within you whispers, wait, be still, let them wonder. Because silence is not passive, it is deliberate. It is your soul choosing to protect your peace rather than waste it on noise. It is choosing to let your presence speak where your voice need not. Those who grow in strength do not feel the need to interrupt every offense. They do not rush to fill the air when patience can do more. They know when to let their actions speak for them. They've come to understand that silence can be a form of strength, of confidence, of boundary. It is the language of those who no longer feel the need to chase validation. It is the voice of those who have learned that sometimes silence can shake a room more than 1,000 well-spoken words. Successful people listen more than they speak, not because they don't have something to say, but because they choose to speak with intention. Their words are weighed before they are released. Their responses are rooted in purpose, not provocation. They know that timing is sacred, that there are things best left unsaid, best left to unfold, best left to God and time and grace. They do not speak just to correct someone's false impression. They don't rush to explain their silence. They allow people to think what they will because they are no longer driven by the need to be understood by those unwilling to understand. They trust that truth reveals itself in time, and often the truth is clearer when delivered without noise. There is discipline in holding your tongue when your pride wants to roar. There is honor in choosing grace over gossip, stillness over slander, discernment over drama, because every word you speak either builds or breaks, either plants or poisons. And those who rise have learned to speak only what is necessary, what is true, what is timely. And when none of those things are present, they stay silent. They've watched others undo their peace with words not worth speaking. They've seen people ruin relationships, lose